Okay, welcome to San Juan Bautista and California Traditions. And today we were thinking of talking about the various materials that were used. They're from animal hides, and so maybe starting out with the most basic material, which is rawhide. Rawhide is literally the raw hide. And this is a riata, and so it's one of the things that were commonly used and constructed out of rawhide. And the advantage of rawhide is that it's, when it dries, it's pretty stiff, and it's also a lot stronger than leather. And so for some applications, particularly for a riata, that combination of strength and thickness is what you want. And first of all, you want the stiffness so that when you throw the loop out, the loop will stay open to go over the head of the animal you're roping, or the legs, and then and then secondly, of course, you need the strength. And kind of the next thing that you maybe talk about that was a really important material was what's called gamusa, and gamusa is what we know as English speakers as buckskin. So buckskin was almost like rawhide. It's just basically a softened rawhide. And this is a replica of a cuera, which during the colonial times the people would wear as a protection against the thorns and arrows and so on. And then, but it's basically a hide that's softened, and using a lubricant, and normally that'd be the brains of an animal, and so you just soak it in a mush of brains, and then just keep working it and working it until it gets soft, and so how soft you get it depends on how much you mechanically work it, and if you work it enough, you can get it almost like velvet. And but there's only hides of certain animals that'll work. The hides from the elk or deer, any of the animals from the deer family, you can soften that way, or sheep will work too. But goat or calves or cattle, you can't make a moose out of that. And then the other way of processing hides was to actually tan it. Using tannic acid, which you would get from plant material. So there's a lot of different plants that will give you the tannic acid, and the most commonly used here was the bark from the tan oak tree, and so to make your leather, you would take the bark from the tree, and then you dry and pound it up, and you put it in water, and then you put your hide in after you got the hair off of it. Then you'd put it in the tanning solution that's made up of the bark, and then the water would leach the tannic acid out of the bark, and then you just keep it in there, and then little by little the tannic acid carried by the water will seep into the hide, and that'll take a bit of time for that process to happen, and then depending on how thick the hide is, and so for some applications you want a fairly thin hide, and so you'd use an animal that had a thinner hide, usually a calf or a goat, and this is a goat hide, and so it's just naturally pretty thin, and so this type of leather was called vaqueta, and then it would be used for making your shoes, or these are the armitas, and kind of the forerunners of the chaps, and then the last thing, that type of leather would be the leather that you use for saddles, and heavier, where you need a heavier leather, and that was called vaqueta. you have the vaqueta and then the macatilla and so with this type of leather, when it's tanned with a but the vaqueta, you can tool it and emboss it and so the if it's thick enough and it's tanned with that tannic acid, it's a type of leather that will take an embossed pattern, and so there's usually always ornamentation to any saddle, and you can still get this kind of leather and but if you go to a leather supply place to buy it, it'll be called vegetable tanned leather, and if you want to tool it, put designs in it, you're going to have to get the vegetable tanned leather, because the other chemically tanned leathers or oil tanned leathers really won't work for that. So that's basically that's one more thing that then with the bark tanning too, sometimes they would tan the hide, like for example sheep hides. This is sheep hides, and but with the vegetable tan or the bark tan, you can tan a hide with the hair or the wool on. And these are actually tanned with pomegranate rather than the bark, but pomegranate's another one of many different types of plant material that you can use for tanning. And so the sheep hides were used to lay on, and but they also would tan goat hides or bear hides or anything like that, and then goat hide or bear hide, they would typically tan those to put on the dirt floors of the adobes and by their bed, so that when you hop out of bed in the morning, you have something nice to stick your toes in. And those are basically it as far as all the different types of uses for manufacturing material out of animal hides.